Inspired by Judy Blume's groundbreaking 1975 novel Forever, watch the reimagined coming-of-age series about young love by Mara Braca Keel, the iconic creator of Girlfriends. The epic love story follows two Black teens, Keisha and Justin, as they explore romance and their identities through the awkward journey of being each other's firsts. Watch Forever, premiering May 8th only on Netflix.
Only the best will do for mom. So make Whole Foods Market your Mother's Day destination. Shop the floral department for vibrant blooms like tulips, orchids, peonies, and expert-crafted bouquets. Then head to the wellness and beauty department and give mom a spa-like experience with scented candles and more. And if you're hosting brunch or dinner, order flavorful Whole Foods Market catering by May 9th. Celebrate Mother's Day with Whole Foods Market in-store and online.
If you want them to tell you the truth, you have to earn their trust and keep it. How I responded to what they were saying was how I was building trust for what they would want to tell me about their lives in the future. I want my kids to tell me the truth. And in order for them to tell me the truth, I can't judge what their truth is. I want to be someone that they come to for advice. I want to be their confidant. I want to help them figure the stuff out in their life. And if they're lying to me or not telling me the truth because they're worried about how I'm going to respond, I just feel like who's going to give them advice? They're dumb friends? No, that's a terrible idea. I think that building that trust starts really young. Think very carefully before you respond to things, because how you respond will set the tone for what they tell you in the future. Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. Hi guys, it's Rach. Welcome to another episode of the show. Thank you so much for being here, for listening in. If this is your first time ever hanging out with me, I'm glad that you're here. If this is your, 100th time hanging out with me, I'm glad you're here too. Let's talk about motherhood. Let's talk about motherhood because Mother's Day is on Sunday. If you are listening to this in real time, it will be Mother's Day here in the US on Sunday, and I thought we should celebrate because so many listeners of the show are mamas. I am a mom, and I feel especially filled with ideas to share because my oldest son is 18, and we just took him for a visit at his college that he chose to go to. He's going to go to Northwestern in the fall. We're so excited. I love Chicago. I love the Midwest. I love all of y'all. It's going to be great. So really excited. But I thought I have successfully, and I'm like using air quotes, you can't see me, I think pretty successfully navigated at least one child from birth to 18 years old. And so I was like, feel like that qualifies me to share some ideas, not expertise, because honestly, I could record this podcast and then he could go knock off a liquor store or something. And then where would we be? But at the very least, I have managed to get him to this point. And I think I've got some ideas that might be helpful for you guys. If you are a parent, if you are thinking about being a parent, maybe you're pregnant, maybe you got a toddler. I broke this list down into different ages. So I started with like the baby years and the toddler years, then school age. But here are 18 things that I have learned in 18 years of being a parent. Let's do it. This is broken down into ages, and we're starting off with the baby years, though to be totally honest, I'm going to bet a lot of the things on this list are interchangeable. So you might hear it in the baby section and be like, I got a 17-year-old that I'm dealing with that right now. But my first one on the list, I was thinking back to when I was pregnant with Jackson. He's my oldest. And then later when he was a newborn, and then when he was a little bit older, and, we'd take him out in a little baby carrier, you'd go to the grocery store. Here's something I know is true. Everybody has an opinion. When it comes to being a parent for the first time and having a baby, everybody's got an opinion. And these might be people you know. It might be your mama or your mother-in-law, your big sister, your friend. These might be random strangers at the grocery store who want to tell you that your baby needs to wear a hat, even though it's summertime. And to be totally real, the opinions don't start when there's a baby. In my case, the opinion started when there was a pregnant belly. So many people would see my pregnant belly, like complete strangers, and tell me that I was wearing the wrong shoes. Or like, oh, maybe your pants are too tight. I was like, girl, what? I was raised to respect my elders, and most of these opinions were coming from grandmas. So I was like, all right, I know I don't know this old lady at Ralph's, but I'm sure she means well. But I guess my point in sharing this idea is just that everyone's going to have an opinion, and most of them are wrong for you. If you start thinking that everyone's opinion matters more than your own, you're going to learn to second guess yourself in one of the hardest jobs you will ever do, maybe the hardest job you will ever do, where your confidence in your skills really matters. And our confidence in our skill set as a parent comes through doing things, learning from what we've done, and then doing better next time. But if you are taking on everyone else's opinions while you try and navigate this field of doing all of this new stuff, you're going to erode whatever confidence you might find in yourself. So just know going into this process that lots of people have an opinion and you don't have to make it yours. This is especially relevant if you have anyone in your family, in my case it was in-laws, who had very strong opinions about the way things should be done. And it took me a very long time to understand that just because it was coming from an authority figure that I felt a lot of pressure to do what they said, I didn't have to take that on board if it didn't align with where I was, who I was, and what I wanted to do as a family. But I didn't know that. I was such a young mom. I had Jackson when I was 24 years old. So I really didn't understand that I was allowed to, I didn't need to fight. I didn't need to push back. It didn't need to be a battle. I could just sort of let someone give me their opinion and then be done with it. So if you haven't ever tried that, just listen to what your mother-in-law is saying and then be like, okay, great. And then just do whatever you want. Because you know what? She had her chance to raise her babies. She already did that. These are your babies. This is your moment. And yeah, you're gonna screw up, but that's part of parenting. You are learning your way of being a parent. Second thing I learned in 18 years of parenting, your body will never be the same. Ever. And it doesn't matter if you actually carry a baby inside your body. If you are becoming a parent, it's going to change your body. It will. I know this for a fact because I am married to a step parent. And I just I'm going to take a quick side note and say, my husband Kez has the most beautiful body. It's ridiculous. Oh man, it's delicious, y'all. I know you can't see it right now, but trust me, looks fantastic. Abs, arms, all the things. That being said, when I met him, he was single, in his 40s, had spent years traveling the world as a tour manager. And you know what they do when they're on tour, particularly when you're on tour with a pop star? You tour and you put on shows and you work out. That's what they did. And so when I met him, I think his body fat percentage was 4. I mean, it was so insane. And it was too much, honestly. We're normal people over here. I don't need that staring me. It's too fine. It's too beautiful. And he still is incredible. He has a body we would die for. But he's like, oh my God, do you remember what I looked like before I had kids? So your body is going to change, even if you don't carry those babies inside of you. Have you ever seen someone go into the presidency? Have you ever seen a picture of someone who becomes president and then like what they look like 8 years later? And in 8 years, they look like they have aged 100 years. That's parenting. Believe me, right now, 42, got an 18-year-old. I am in the best shape of my life. No joke. I was doing bicep curls today at the gym, 15-pound bicep curls. I didn't even know I was capable of this. Fabulous. So proud of me. But I don't have the body I had before I had him. I don't have the skin. Skin got stretched out, stomach changed, boobs changed, butt changed, inside changed. You know what I'm talking about? Things changed. My hair changed, the texture of my hair, it's different than before I had him. Your body's going to change. If you adopt a baby, I guarantee your body's going to change because it is impossible for us energetically to be responsible for keeping another human alive. We are literally giving another being our life force that is going to affect the way that your body is, the way it looks, the way it functions. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It is a part of life. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's sort of a price that you pay for this experience. And it doesn't mean that it has to be bad. My body is beautiful. It's very different than it was, but it's also beautiful in different ways. It can do things now it couldn't then. But if you go into it with your eyes open and you understand that things are going to be so different on the other side of that child coming into your home, I think it's going to make that experience a lot easier. Third thing that I know to be true, you can love your baby, your child, your teenager, and still miss your old life. In fact, I think that's actually really normal. I think what's not normal is pretending if you feel otherwise. See, when I was growing up, all the movies I saw, the TV shows, everything focused on this narrative that mothers were so fulfilled by every part of motherhood. And don't get me wrong, my kids, my family, it is the best thing that will ever happen to me. I know for a fact it's the best thing, but it's still hard as hell. It is so hard. Oh my gosh. And to believe that this thing that is hard, even on the good days, is hard, that is going to be what solves all the problems in your life, gives you all that you need. No, of course not. The best case scenario is that you don't completely set aside who you were before you became their parent. The best case scenario is that you take who you were and use it to evolve into who you're becoming. You're not becoming a totally new and different person. You are becoming something greater than you were. But that version of you who loved karaoke, who loved macrame, who loved tap dance classes, like they are still in you. And it is way too much pressure on any human, whether it's your child or your best friend or your partner, to expect them to be everything that you need. It's totally normal to miss your old life. It's totally normal to miss when it was easier, when you didn't have so much responsibility, when you could sleep in until 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Like, of course. And you can miss those things and you can mourn those things and it not make you a bad parent. You still love your babies. You just miss going to brunch with your girlfriends. And that is so normal. Guys, I did it. I got the Hydro Jug Traveler. It is the mug that everyone's talking about because it's completely leak-proof, cup holder compatible. That's the piece that I really wanted. I wanted it to go in my cup holder. And it has a hygienic circular flip straw that's easy for sipping. The Hydro Jug Traveler comes in multiple colors and sizes, 40, 32, and 22 ounces. I have it in 3 colors, so you can find the perfect bottle that matches your style. Go to hydrojug.com and use the code RACH to save 10% at checkout. That's code RACH at thehydrojug.com for 10% off at checkout.
The essential mango coconut freeze. It makes its appearance at the dinner party, right when the night could go either way between nice evening and legendary. Served in 8 perfect stoneware bowls to the sounds of circa 1950 bossa nova. Seconds, a good debate, and an impromptu round of never have I ever follow. It's gonna be a late one. The essential evening extender, made possible with Vitamix.
The fourth thing is that taking care of yourself is not a luxury. It's not a special occasion thing. Taking care of yourself is a necessity. It is so essential that you care for yourself as a parent if you want to be worth anything to your kids. And it's such a hard thing to do because it seems backwards. Oftentimes, in order to take care of ourselves, it might mean carving out time away from our family. It might mean, no, I can't play a board game with you because I really have been looking forward to taking a bath. And I'm going to go take a bath right now because this is, I got the Epsom salts and Fleetwood's playing and I've got some candles lit. And like, no, I'm sorry, you can't come in here and take a bath with me because this is like, when they're toddlers, it's so cute. And then, oh, mom, I want to. And then you're like, well, okay, because it's sweet. But then all of a sudden your time just got hijacked. You really have to fight for taking care of yourself. I remember years ago, a trainer that I was going to. I mean, it was like maybe the first time I'd ever gone to a trainer in my life. And I think I must have just had Jackson. I didn't have a bunch of kids. I think I just had one. But she said this thing I never forgot. She was asking me about, how's your nutrition? What's your nutrition like? And I was like, oh, I don't really know much about nutrition. She said, well, tell me, describe the last few days, like what you've eaten over the last few days. And I was telling her, I was really busy and I didn't really eat till like 2 or 3. And then I went to Taco Bell and I'm just like describing really disordered, chaotic relationship with food. And she said, would you ever feed your baby the way you feed yourself? I was like, what? Of course not. She's like, well, if you know that in order for them to thrive, they need to get enough sleep and they need to be hydrated, they need to eat properly. If you know that that's important for them, why don't you think that's important for you? And I've never forgotten that. And it's not just about sleep or nutrition or water. It's also about rest. It's about alone time. It's about having hobbies that fulfill you outside the house. It's a lot of those things. But understand that, I know you've heard it a million times, you've got to put on your oxygen mask before you try and help someone else with theirs. The fifth thing I know in 18 years of parenting, it's not like you imagine, is it? Those of you who are pregnant with your first baby, or maybe you're dreaming about being a parent, it is not what you imagine. It's not. It's not what you saw on Pinterest. It's not what you saw on Instagram. I don't care how many friends you have and how many babies they have. It is not like you imagine, because we are typically going to imagine best case scenario. We're imagining a baby that's adorable, that sleeps through the night, that doesn't have colic, that eats whatever we put in front of it, that, wants to wear the cute Easter dress. Like, we're imagining best case scenario. And maybe you do get a lot of those highlight moments and you have these things that feel exactly as wonderful as you hope that they would. But chances are, because you have a human, not a doll, that human is going to give you a hard time sometimes. They're going to have their own issues. They're going to deal with their own stuff. Or maybe you're dealing with stuff. How many of us gave birth, those of us who gave birth, you gave birth to your first baby. And if you're anything like me, it never occurred to you that you were going to need to learn how to parent a newborn, the most delicate, fragile thing on the planet, while simultaneously recovering from the most traumatic thing our bodies will go through, likely in our lifetime. And I don't use the word traumatic like birth is a natural thing. Fingers crossed, your body does all the things that it needs to allow you to give birth in the way that you want to give birth. It's still freaking traumatic. Yes, I know there are people who are like, no, it wasn't traumatic for me. I did the deep breathing and I was in that tub and like angels flew in and we all chanted together and then the baby just slipped right out or whatever. I understand. I shouldn't say it's traumatic for everybody. It's not traumatic for everybody. It's traumatic for a lot of us though. Not all of us have the tub and the angels, okay? Some of us have episiotomies and clamps, okay? It's a different thing for different people. And if you did go through this really hard labor, and frankly, even if you went through the angel water birth thing, even that, your body's still recovering from this major thing that it just lived through. And you're bleeding and you're wearing those mesh diapers with like the giant pads. You're doing all that stuff while taking care of a baby. That literally never occurred to me, ever. It never occurred to me that if the baby was actually asleep at night when I had a newborn, everyone's like, oh, it's so hard. The baby doesn't sleep. It doesn't sleep. But then when he finally did fall asleep, I never imagined that I would be unable to sleep. And I would go a little crazy keeping myself awake all night because I was terrified that he was going to stop breathing. There's so many parts of it that we do not imagine until you're inside of it. And again, I think that if someone would have just like, hey sis, slow your roll. Yes, by all the beautiful layettes and onesies that this baby's closet can hold, but also hold some space for the fact there are parts of this you don't know that they're going to happen. And when they happen, it's going to be okay, but it won't all be sunshine and roses. All right, let's move to the toddler years. More things that I've learned in 18 years of parenting. Number 6, your kid will 100% embarrass you in public at some point. And embarrassment looks like different things to different people, doesn't it? For some of us, embarrassment is your kid having a full-blown meltdown in the middle of Target while everyone's watching and looking at you and you're thinking, everyone's thinking I'm the worst mom ever. They don't know that he's throwing a fit because he wants to shove a lollipop up his nose and I won't let him. But all anyone can see is this kid screaming and like turning himself into a noodle. And I'm like, he goes boneless and you're like trying to like get him. He's flailing and it's a whole catastrophe. Maybe they do that. Maybe they go to Sunday school or 3rd grade and they tell a story or they share a secret. You didn't want their 2nd grade teacher to know that your cousin Crystal is pregnant with, the milkman's baby or whatever. They're gonna embarrass you. But those embarrassing moments are just quality storytelling for the rest of time. I'm thinking of these moments that I've had where the kids have embarrassed me so bad. And now those are the stories we laugh our butts off. We're like, remember that time that Ford did this? Remember that time that, this happened? They're so adorable. They don't always feel adorable in the moment, but just understand that as part of having a kid, that's honestly like some of the good stuff. Even if in the moment, you're like so mortified that this is how your baby just like pulled a piece of poop out of its diaper and threw it at someone at the grocery store. Who knows? We don't know what these creatures are going to come up with. Just roll with it. That's part of parenting. Just roll with the poop. All right, number 7. Oh, this is a good one. Every kid is different. every kid is different. And I don't mean like your kids are going to be different than your sisters, though that's certainly true. I mean, if you have one child and you decide to have a second child, girl, boy, you need to listen to me. That second baby will not be like that first baby. I have literally never met a family where all the kids were the same temperament, where they all were like gentle creatures and they all rolled the same. No. In fact, most families I know have a first baby, and the first baby is relatively easy by baby standards. And they're like, we are amazing. Let's have a second baby. And then the second baby comes and it's straight from the devil, and it doesn't sleep and it talks back, which is weird because it's like a newborn, and it's so hard and it feels so impossible. Every single one of my kids, I have 4 kids, they are all so different. And it makes it really hard because it's sort of like a kick in the face when you think, okay, I did it. Like, I know how to parent. I got this. I've got 3 kids, and the oldest one is in 5th grade. So I'm just really crushing it. And then as they each get older, they each continue to change, and they change in ways that are different than each other. And just know in advance, they're going to be different kids. And if you have a friend or family member that has just a slew of sweet little cherubs, I think it was Jen Hatmaker said this years ago. She said, some families are sweet families. She said, we are a spicy family. We don't have a sweet kid in the bunch. And I'm like, that's us. My kids are wonderful, but no one would meet my kids and be like, oh, they're so sweet. They'd be like, oh, they're so smart. They're so great. They're so confident. They're so this, that they've got incredible skills, amazing things to offer the world. Nobody is describing any of my babies as sweet. So if you have a friend who has a bunch of sweet babies and you're thinking that means you get sweet babies, I mean, have a baby if you want a baby, but just know you might not get the sweet baby. You might get the spicy baby. And then she comes over and she's looking at you like, well, what's wrong with Cheryl? Why aren't her babies like my baby? It's just just be aware. All kids are different.
Hey, everybody. It's Rob Lowe here. If you haven't heard, I have a podcast that's called Literally with Rob Lowe. And basically it's conversations I've had that really make you feel like you're pulling up a chair at an intimate dinner between myself and people that I admire, like Aaron Sorkin or Tiffany Haddish, Demi Moore, Chris Pratt, Michael J. Fox. There are new episodes out every Thursday. So subscribe, please, and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Building a business may feel like a big jump, but OnDeck Small Business Loans can help keep you afloat. With lines of credit up to $100,000 and term loans up to $250,000, OnDeck lets you choose the loan that's right for your business. As a top-rated online small business lender, OnDeck's team of loan advisors can help you find the right business loan to fit your needs. Visit OnDeck.com for more information. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
Number 8 of 18 things I know in 18 years of parenting, you must, capital M, capital U, capital S, capital T, you must ask for help. You must. I don't care who you are, how you're showing up as a parent, you're raising your grandkids, you're a daddy, you're a mama, I don't care. You have to ask for help, and you need to accept help when it's offered. You were not meant to do this by yourself. And if you are blessed to have family or friends who can help you in the process, that's amazing. If you weren't blessed to have family or friends, find a friend, trade with other, just, hey, I'll take your kids for a few hours, you take my kids for a few, find a community of other parents who want support in this process. If you have it within your budget, pay for a babysitter. Get yourself a babysitter. So if you've got a partner, the two of you can go on a date, touch each other's boobs. Remember what that used to feel like. If you've got it in the budget, maybe maybe a few days a week, you have a babysitter, they pick up the kids after school and they get their snacks and they play with them and, they do all the fun. And so you've got some time. If you've got it within the budget, maybe you get to have someone come over and they help you, I don't know, meal prep, mommy helper, whatever, but ask for help. When I was a younger mother, I had a friend who was a stay-at-home mom. I was a working mom. She was a stay-at-home mom and she loved it. She lived for it. She was just one of those moms that just, I said your kids shouldn't be the only thing that fulfills you, but it is highly possible that she could have been totally fulfilled by her children and still is. And she was really struggling when her kids were young, as any mama would do. And she was really struggling with doing all the things, taking care of the babies, making 3 meals a day, cleaning the house, doing it all. And I was talking to her about it. And the biggest stress in her life was laundry in the house and all of these things. And I was so confused. I remember being because I knew what her husband did for a job and he made really good money. So she stayed at home and he had this fantastic job. And I was like, what if you just, there's you could hire someone and then they come in and they'll help you. And you don't have to have someone there all the time. You could just, there's so many services. They come in and they'll, do your laundry, literally anything you want help with, someone can come in and help you with that. And it just so happened that as I was saying it, because when I was saying it, I was thinking, what kind of jerk is this guy? Because I'm just assuming oh, he doesn't want her. And he was like, oh my God, please. Yes, please tell her this. I ask her all the time, let's get someone to just give you a little support. But she didn't want to do it because she felt guilty because she was like, well, this is my job. She's drowning in trying to keep this house clean when, by the way, her light and joy are her kids. So she's actually missing out on what she would love to be doing, which is playing with the kids, to clean the house. And she could have someone to come and help her, but she felt guilty because she was like, no, this is my job. She had some narrative, who even knows. If you need help, ask for help and accept it when it is offered. I was talking to an older woman years ago who said when she was first married, her husband would always ask her, she'd be folding laundry, and her husband would always ask her if he could, let me help you. And so he'd help her. And for about a year, they would fold laundry together and she would always give him a hard, no, that's not how you do a towel. You fold a towel like this. And who taught you how to do socks? This is how you do socks. This is a long time ago. And she would give him crap. And after about a year, he just stopped offering to help. And she realized it. A lot of time had gone by and she said, why do you don't help me anymore? And he said, because I got tired of, you just redid everything that I did. It was never good enough. And I think that this happens a lot, and not to point fingers, but it happens a lot with women who are in relationships with men. If you're a mama and you got a daddy in the house with you, it's very common to adjust and judge and guide and rework the way that daddy's doing things with the kids because you think your way is the best way. And you don't allow them to just parent the way they would parent. You want them to parent as a junior version of you. They're not your junior deputy. I have a friend who always said this phrase and I freaking hated it, and still do. I hate when people say that dads are babysitting. No, dad's not babysitting. Dad's parenting. He's just parenting. People are like, oh, daddy gets to babysit. No, it's not a special thing. So I had heard that a lot and I would correct people because I just think, no, don't call it baby. You don't call it babysitting when a mom is with her kid. So don't make it something cutesy and special when a dad's just being a dad. Now, simultaneously, I had this friend with her husband. She would always say, whenever he would have their kids, she'd say, oh, he's doing daddy daycare. It's daddy daycare. They're at daddy daycare. And it was this very specific thing that was like, it was such a special big deal that he had the kids. And I really felt like it was a disservice to him because he was like amazing with his kids. Like he was parenting the hell out of parenting. It wasn't some cutesy special time. He was just like being a great dad. And I felt like there was something about it that was almost this like, you're going to do this little thing. You're going to have this little moment, but it's different than when I do it. So just be careful if that's you. If you've got people who are offering to help, accept the freaking help. I remember when Jackson was born, people wanted to bring us casseroles, and a bunch of like old ladies from church brought us casseroles, and not all of them were good. Some of them were actually disgusting. But you know what? When you've been breastfeeding all day and you're freaking starving, you are so grateful for a disgusting casserole. Ask for help and say, thank you so much. Yes, you can come over and hold my baby while I take a shower or take a nap. Just like ask for help. Okay, number nine thing that I know, parenting can be lonely. Parenting can be lonely. And the loneliness has changed as my kids have gotten older. When they were little and I would be home with them by myself, there were obviously moments in there that felt very lonely because if the only people you can talk to all day are babies, that can feel one kind of way. And I think it can also be lonely when you walk through maybe a hardship or you walk through a season with your child and maybe you don't know anybody else who's going through that. You don't have a support system who has experienced something similar. So you just really don't have anyone who gets it. And that feels very lonely. If you've ever parented through a divorce, and I imagine parented as a single parent, that comes with its own kind of thing. So just know that if you experience moments of that inside of this lifelong experience, I think that's really normal, but I don't think it's something we have to accept. I think that if you're feeling lonely, it's a really great indication to look for support and look for community and look for the kind of parents that you wish you could hang out with. Yeah, to get that community that you need. Number 10, mommy guilt is BS. It is a lie. It is straight from the devil. You feeling guilty is not making your kids better. It sucks. Mommy guilt sucks. Now, let me explain mommy guilt if perhaps you were lucky enough to not have experienced this or heard this term. It is usually reserved for moms who are going back to work or trying to find some time for themselves or, leaving the house to go have lunch with their friends and, all of these scenarios that are totally normal that we beat ourselves up over and feel so guilty and like the worst parent alive because the kid cried when you were walking out of the house and now you feel like, oh, I should just go back home. They're probably upset. No, that baby is watching Blue's Clues. They are fine. They do not need you there. You are okay. They are okay. This mommy guilt is not making you a better mommy. It's not. So when it bubbles up inside of you, you have got to squash it rather than sort of dive deeper and see what else is in there for you to be guilty about. You are, God willing, the only mama they are ever going to know. You're the only mama they're ever going to know. So if you're a working mom, that's normal to them. If you're a stay-at-home mom, that's normal to them. If you're a mom who is a devoted ceramicist and you spend all your free time at the wheel and putting things in the kiln, that's what they think that how you parent is how parenting goes, for better or worse. Understand that feeling of guilt over just existing and being a normal human is not going to make any of you have a better time. If mommy guilt shows up, I want you to tell it to shut it, and then you just keep on doing what you were doing. All right, moving on to school-aged children and finishing up our list. Number 11, you have no idea what school will be like for your children until you have children in school. And every single kid is different, as we have established earlier. So just know that if your oldest kid really struggled in school, it doesn't mean that their younger sibling will. And vice versa. If your older kid was a phenom, got straight A's, it doesn't mean that their little sister won't have a really hard time in school. Every kid is different, and they might do great in elementary school and really struggle in middle school. Y'all, it's the Wild West out here, okay? If you go into it without preconceived notions of how they are meant to learn, I think it will be better for everybody. If you let them go in and kind of like, okay, and then you're getting that feedback from the teacher, oh, they're great at reading and they're struggling a bit with math, and you just really allow their education to evolve as they evolve, I think that is such a better, calmer, easier way to approach it than you having an idea that you're about to have this straight A, perfect kid because that's what you were. Because guess what? They are not a miniature version of you. I didn't put that on the list, but I should have. These babies are not a miniature version of you. And these babies are also not a reflection of you. Spoiler alert, your kid being successful doesn't make you more successful. Your kid having a hard time in school doesn't have anything to do with you in your life right now. I know so many teenagers, because of my kids, whose families are so freaking hard on them about grades and getting into an Ivy League college and like where they go and what they do, what level athlete they are. These parents are bonkers. And the only thing that I can figure, because it is just so opposite to me, honestly, if I want the kids to go to college because I think it would be really nice to have 4 years of your life where you didn't yet have to be an adult. That's literally why I want them to go to college. I want them to have a buffer zone between childhood and adulthood because I did not have that. But there are so many kids whose parents are like crazy about it. And the only thing I can assume is that these parents' ego is tied to their children. It's like whatever their child is a reflection of what they are, which is so much pressure on these poor kids. Again, we don't have enough time to get into this, but every kid's going to be different. And how your kid got a C. Okay. That didn't make them a bad person. Your kid failed. So, okay, great. Now we know they shouldn't be taking advanced chem. You tell me one thing that happened to you in middle school or high school. Tell me a grade that you got in freshman year of high school that is currently affecting your life in your 50s. You know it's not. Come on. We need to stop. We want cool. My oldest son, God love him, the most academically inclined of the bunch, never got a B in his life, cares deeply, applied to, I think, 14 colleges. Any of you have gone through that part, you know how many essays he had to write, how hard that's not me, that's him. I told him to take a year off and travel the world. I was like, maybe you just, you vibe. He really wanted to go to school. He cared about it so much. And I'm so freaking proud of him. And I'm so happy for him. But do you think that Jackson's experience makes me believe that his little brothers will be the same way? Or that Noah will? No. I'm just waiting to see. Who are these kids going to be? I have no idea. Number 12, you will yell. At some point in your parenting career, you will yell. Or your version of yelling. Yelling for me is opening my mouth and having my daddy fall out of it. When I have yelled as a parent, it makes me feel like the worst version of myself because I feel like I'm repeating a cycle that I wanted to break. But a lot of parenting teaches us how to reparent ourselves. And if you actually want to break those generational cycles, you can't then beat yourself up when they happen. You actually have to reparent yourself. So you're coming to yourself with love and compassion and kind of unpacking what's there. But just know that that's going to happen for a whole host of reasons, the least of which is this is really hard. I cannot stress this to you enough. It is hard to be a parent. And every single kid that you add to the mix makes it harder. It's not 100% hard all of the time, but there are parts of it that are very difficult. And when we're in these pressure cooker situations, what's inside of us gets squeezed and it seeps out sometimes. So just know that if that's happened, that's totally normal. And it's a good indication of an area you need to work on. Number 13. Now remember, we're talking about school-aged children, but I really want to encourage y'all in this one. If you want them to tell you the truth, you have to earn their trust and keep it. If you want them to tell you the truth, you have to earn their trust and keep it. What this looks like to me is from the time my two oldest were probably, I'd guess, in middle school, we started talking about everything. Every question they had, anything they wanted to know, I would tell them within reason. When they were younger, the pediatrician said, only answer the question they asked. Don't elaborate. He was talking about when they were little and they would ask like, what's a penis or whatever. He was like, answer the exact question. Parents tend to like do a whole paragraph. He's like, don't do a paragraph. Say a sentence. So I have consistently used that method no matter what age they were. But that meant in middle school, they asked me so many questions. They would hear stuff from friends at school. What does this mean? What does that mean? I remember driving with Sawyer one time on the way home from baseball. He was in middle school and he's like, what does doggy style mean? He'd never heard that term before. What does doggy style mean? And I was like, oh my word. But I didn't overreact. I didn't like scream or laugh or like I just answered him because that's what in my family, that would have happened. I would have been shamed I never would have asked a question, first of all. But if I had found the courage to do it, if I had asked my older sisters, they would have made fun of me forever. If I had asked a parent, they would have shamed me for knowing that info or knowing those terms. So I just answered matter of fact, okay, it's this. And then he was like, have you ever done that? I mean, kill me. But like he asked, so I'm like, yeah, I have done that. He's like, gross. I'm like, you asked, bro. But from the time they were young, they knew they could ask me anything. And it started with them asking me questions. And then it started with them sort of like revealing truths about their friends. So first it would start with them telling me something that was going on with a friend that they were testing the waters. Like, how will I respond to this? And the first several times I remember everything in me, like my instinct was to clutch my pearls. And, they were like in middle school and like their friends were having sex. And I was just like, oh my God, some Victorian like grandma on me. Like I just was so freaked out. But I also understood that how I responded to what they were saying was how I was building trust for what they would want to tell me about their lives in the future. I want my kids to tell me the truth. And in order for them to tell me the truth, I can't judge what their truth is. I want to be someone that they come to for advice. I want to be their confidant. I want to help them figure the stuff out in their life. And if they're lying to me or not telling me the truth because they're worried about how I'm going to respond, I just feel like who's going to give them advice? Their dumb friends? No, that's a terrible idea. I think that building that trust starts really young. Think very carefully before you respond to things, because how you respond will set the tone for what they tell you in the future. I remember when we lived in Texas, because we lived out in the country and Jackson was starting to drive, that I made them a promise. I said, if you, for the rest of your life, if you are ever at a party and you are drunk, if you cannot drive, and by the way, I'm like, you're not allowed to drink at all. You're not allowed to take substances. You are not allowed. This is my rule. But let's just say hypothetically you did. If that ever happens, you call me 2:00 in the morning. I don't know why in this scenario they're out at this time. Let's say they spent the night at a friend's house. I think they're having a slumber party. Turns out they went to a party. It's 2:00 in the morning. You call me. You call me whenever. I will come pick you up and you will not get in trouble. That is my commitment to you. You have my word. I will come pick you up. No questions asked. You will not get in trouble. Because I don't want my kids drunk driving, right? And now we live in LA where you can get an Uber 24 hours a day. But it's stuff like that I would rather have them tell me the truth. And it's funny because one of my teenagers will tell me truths like sort of like, oh my gosh, this happened in real time. It's like as soon as, the first time he kissed a girl, immediately, as soon as he got home, he was like, Mom, and this is the exact scenario. We were at the movies. Like he'll tell me exactly. Well, I just told you which kid that is because only one of my teenagers likes girls. And then his brother is not so forthcoming, but will tell you kind of after the fact, like later on, he'll like mention something. You're like, oh, okay, great. But sorry, I'm waxing on poetic, but I do think if you have teenagers, this is so important. This is so important. There's so many parents that I feel like really screw this up by basically parenting the way their parents parented. But when they were teenagers, they hated that. They hated the way their parents were parents. But then for lack of not knowing what else to do, are parenting their teenagers the same way. These are the parents who say things like, you will respect me, you will respect my authority. Blah, blah, blah. Man, respect is earned. Just because you're someone's parent doesn't mean they will respect you. And the more you yell and go on and on about how they are supposed to be acting, the greater the chasm you build between you and them. All right. Number 14, I promise I'm going to stop doing a full monologue for each one of these. Number 14, you need something in your life besides your kids. You need something in your life besides your kids. I waited till school age on this one because when you have babies, this feels extra hard. But if they're at school age, they're in high school, get a hobby. You don't have a hobby, get a hobby. You haven't hung out with your girlfriends in a while, call your girlfriends. You haven't gone to a concert with your bros in a while, go to a concert. You have to have a life outside of these kids or this kid. I saw this podcast clip the other day that I thought was so smart, where they were talking about how much our partners, like we have put so much pressure on partnership, on marriage, for our partner to be everything to us. You better be my best friend and my confidant and my lover and my financial equal, and you better parent the same way I do. There's so much pressure. You were not meant to get all the things from just your wife, just your husband, just your kids. Like maybe your husband is like this, and this for you, but you need to meet up with your girlfriend so you can all laugh until you pee your pants a little bit, and so you can talk crap about your husbands, right? Like we need life outside these walls. Honey, even if it's just like you need to leave the house and go work at a coffee shop or go read a book in a park, I don't care what you do with your time. It can't only be at home. It can't only be about them. That is a sure design for burnout. And it's also a design for bitterness because you give and give and give and nothing's pouring back into you. And then you're expecting they don't even appreciate me and they don't even, you tell yourself some story. Like, just get a life. Get a life outside your babies. I know it's not easy, but it is important. Number 15, ask your kids for a performance review. If you have a child that is, I'd say, over the age of 10, you should ask them how they think you're doing. I heard this once, this idea that like you ask your kids, you say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like the best thing you can imagine, 1 being the worst, what would you rate me as a mom? And I ask my kids this and they will answer. You say like just based on the last 6 months, from Christmas until now. And they'll answer. And all my kids said like 8 or 9. They might have all said 9. And I said, okay, great. And they were like kind of nervous. I said, great. What would it take to get me to a 10? And they kind of giggled. But then all of them answered me really honestly. I remember one of my kids wanted more time. Hey, I love it when you do this. And I love it when you do that. And like, it was so simple. And then when I did those things, they knew that I was doing it because I was trying to be a better parent to them. The important key here is that when your kid gives you feedback, when they say, hey, that hurt my feelings, or hey, I didn't like it when you yelled, or our instinct is to defend ourselves. Our instinct is to make them wrong and us right. And not only is that terrible behavior for them, because they're going to do the exact same thing they see modeled, but it also means they're not going to tell you the truth next time. So if you can have the humility, if you can be humble enough to ask for a review and see, based on the kid's age, it's going to change, but see what they would do different if they could. Number 16, I think it is really helpful to know your child's love language and their Enneagram. If you're dorky enough like me, when kids are in middle school, at least all my kids, loved taking an Enneagram quiz. It's a personality test if you're not familiar. And maybe you have a personality test that you prefer and it would make sense for your kids to do that. But I think the more that you can get into their head and who they actually are, not who you perceive them to be, the better you're going to be able to do at parenting them. Number 17, the work is never done. It's never done. I thought when the kids were younger that I was just trying to get them to 18. And now that I have an 18-year-old, I realize I think that in a healthy relationship, you don't parent as much, but you still parent. I say healthy relationship because that wasn't something I ever saw modeled. My parents essentially stopped parenting when I was 14. So I didn't know what it looked like. And I remember people would say, like adults, they'd be like, oh, my mom's my best friend. And I would be like, great, like loser. What is wrong with this person? And now I'm like, oh my God, my kids are my best friends. And I mean, I'm not like, oh, you're my best friend, so you can like, smoke cigars at the kitchen table or whatever. I'm not like not parenting. But like they are my favorite people. I get it now. And I hope to God that when they're grown up, that they still want to hang out with me. Oh my gosh, the work is never done. And I think it's important to remember that because I plan to keep working on being a good parent for as long as I'm alive. I know how to parent an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old. I do not know how to parent a 34-year-old. I do not know how to parent someone who's becoming a parent themselves. Like, oh my gosh, so much parenting left to do. What a gift. But if this is my vocation, it means that it's something I have to keep working on. And finally, the 18th thing I know in 18 years of parenting, that while this process is hard, and I actually don't think people talk enough about how hard it is so that more people can make solid decisions about whether or not it's the right path for them. Even though it's hard, it is the best thing that's ever happened to me. These kids are the best thing that's ever happened to me and will be the best thing. There's nothing that will ever top getting to be in a family with these 4 kids. Nothing will top that. It is awesome and terrible at times. It's boring. Oh my God, it's so boring. Sometimes it feels like absolute chaos. Sometimes it feels like I don't know how I'm going to live through the end of the week. Like, it's all the things. It's all encompassing. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I hope wherever this finds you today, there was some solidarity in something that I said. If you know another parent, maybe you want to send this to your co-parent so they can listen. I'd love it if you'd share the podcast with someone you know who might dig it. And if this is reaching you in the week before Mother's Day, I hope you have the most amazing day. I hope you get celebrated as you should. I hope you enjoy it. You wear something cute. You get to eat something yummy. And you know how important your work is here on this earth. Until next time, as always, I love you and I'm rooting for you. The Rachel Hollis Podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble.
Hey, everybody, it's Rob Lowe here. If you haven't heard, I have a podcast that's called Literally with Rob Lowe. And basically, it's conversations I've had that really make you feel like you're pulling up a chair at an intimate dinner between myself and people that I admire, like Aaron Sorkin or Tiffany Haddish, Demi Moore, Chris Pratt, Michael J. Fox. There are new episodes out every Thursday. So subscribe, please, and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Work management platforms. Ugh, endless onboarding, IT bottlenecks, admin requests. But what if things were different?
We found love in an open space.
Monday.com is different. No lengthy onboarding. Beautiful reports in minutes. Custom workflows you can build on your own. Easy to use prompt-free AI. Huh. Turns out you can love a work management platform. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.